closer to the mic, please. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Wanda, W-A-N-D-A, last name Rodriguez, R-O-D-R-I-G-U-E-Z. I am the sister of Lorenzo. I just had a few words to share with everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Wanda Rodriguez. Lorenzo was my brother, and he was killed here. Louis was killed by security guards who should not have been armed. He was killed by irresponsible supervisors at El Rey who allowed security guards to carry guns and decide whether customers live or die. Louis was killed by callous supervisors at security officer services who knew that Anthony Nolden was not licensed to carry a firearm while working as a private security and knew that he was not trained to address life and death situations. The Milwaukee Police Department has ignored these facts. Instead, the MPD has chosen to look the other way. And by doing so, MPD has decided which laws to enforce and which laws MPD has decided which laws to enforce and which people to refer for criminal charges. We should all be equal under the law. But MPD has not treated the crimes committed as the crimes they are. And so I have hired a lawyer to investigate here and pursue all available legal relief. That's all I have to say. For the community and the bystanders that were affected by these actions, I apologize. I lost a life as well. I don't want my brother to be treated as a criminal. I will fight for justice. I will be here every day if I have to, and I will make my point across, not only for my brother's life, but others' lives who were affected by this trauma.
Any comments from the attorney?
Yes.
Can we ask you a couple questions? Or
Sure, go ahead.
Well, first, can you say and spell your first and last name?
William Sultan, W-I-L-L-I-A-M, Sultan, S-U-L-T-O-N.
All right, who are you with?
I run my own law firm on King and Center.
What do you know about what happened here? Did she mention the MPD investigation? Have you been in contact with them? Have you found out if they're referring charges? Any update?
So the City of Milwaukee Police Department has been rather tight-lipped. We have requested a meeting with the Chief of Police, and he did commit to meeting with us next week. So we hope to have an update on their investigation. However, I've, of course, began my own investigative efforts, and what I have learned is that Mr. Nolden and other private security personnel that work here at El Rey's do not have licenses to carry firearms while acting as private security. That is a crime in our state. It's a crime chargeable to the supervisors here at El Rey's and chargeable to the companies that employ these folks. And that is something that MPD has simply ignored. and we intend to ask them why that is the case next week.
What do you have, like, when you said you in your investigation found that, what documents or things do you have to prove that that is the case?
One of the great things about the state of Wisconsin is that all information about professionals is pretty much open record. So the Department of Safety and Professional Services in our state regulates license for private security persons. You can go online right now and discover the same facts that I have. Surely DSPS also has additional information which we intend to gather through open records. But right now we know as a fact that Anthony Nolden and other private security guards working here, perhaps the folks that are working there right now, do not have licenses to carry firearms while working as private security. Why is that important? Because that means they lack training and that they lack supervision, right? Our state legislature has made a decision that carrying guns is dangerous. And if you're going to carry guns while working, you need to be properly trained and supervised. That didn't happen here, and that is the reason why people died here.
Was Lorenzo legally carrying a weapon?
I don't have all the facts from the Milwaukee Police Department, but I think it is known that he was not permitted to carry firearms lawfully, except for self-defense.
So did he have a concealed carry license?
I don't believe that he did have a concealed carry license.
What kind of legal action are you pursuing at this point?
Well, right now we're investigating all of the circumstances surrounding the death, but right now it's certainly, we have enough information to pursue a case against both El-Rays and the private security firms based on the fact that they hired folks and allowed them to work unlawfully carrying firearms.
I was going to ask you, would you know when was the first time they called 911? Was it after the shooting or was it inside a raid? Would you happen to know any information on that?
I'm hoping to learn those independent facts from the police department. Unfortunately, they've kept that information quite tight-lipped. However, they did commit to a meeting, and I expect to learn more information.
So right now you're investigating, but the plan is to bring a lawsuit.
Absolutely. I think that any employers, including El-Rays and the private security firms, who allow employees to unlawfully carry firearms and citizens get hurt as a result of that, should absolutely be held accountable both in criminal court and in civil court.
What can we expect next from you and your team?
Happy to provide an update right after we talk with the chief of police on Wednesday.
Meeting set for Wednesday, you said?
Yes.
Do you know if there was security video or anything that captured what happened?
I believe that there was security video footage, and I also believe there was body camera footage that would show interviews with the folks that were involved here.
Have you seen any of that yet?
Again, hoping to see that information on Wednesday, or at least have a timetable for when I can get access to that information.
Would you know the security were wearing a body camera? Because according to their website, they do supposed to carry body cameras.
Again, additional information. I assume they are wearing body camera footage, but I don't actually have that footage. But just because on their website they say they do something, like perhaps make sure their employees are properly licensed, we know doesn't mean that they actually do it, right? But what I think is important here is what is the explanation of El-Rays and the private security firms for allowing these gentlemen to carry firearms and decide whether people literally live or die. Are there questions, comments?
Well,
I'll take those too.
have the DA decided yet to file any charges or not? Or are they
My understanding is that the City of Milwaukee Police Department hasn't made any criminal referrals for allowing these folks to carry firearms while acting as private security. And that's wrong. It doesn't take a week to figure that out. It'll take you less than 5 minutes to go on the website to discover the same information that I have.
Well, I know that the mainstream media has published that the police department have already submitted all the paperwork to the DA's office to review and decide either it was justified for Lorenzo to be killed and whatever happens after that. But that's what I understand the mainstream media has been reporting.
Sure. I mean, I'm not, I don't have a copy of the actual referral documents, but what I do know today is that there hasn't been any referral made for the supervisors at El-Rays or at security officer services, right? There may be a referral related to the security guard who killed Mr. Lorenzo, right? But not for the supervisors at these two corporations that are clearly responsible for violating Wisconsin law.
Will you push for the police department and the DA's office to charge El-Ray and the security for not complying with state law?
Absolutely. It's a law that's on the books. The police should enforce the law.
Are you looking into self-defense claims at all here, or are you mainly just focused on El Rey and the security company?
Well, again, I represent the estate of Mr. Lorenzo, who happens to be a person who has since passed on. So there won't be any criminal charges referred for Mr. Lorenzo. But certainly I think all of the independent facts leading up to his death are important. And I think it is significant that his shooting death occurred outside of the store, right? It doesn't make any sense for why he would be shot outside of his store, other than these folks were not lawfully trained, not lawfully supervised, and weren't lawfully permitted to carry firearms while deciding whether customers should be shot at or not. Other questions?
I kind of asked this, but just want to clarify. So do you think, as this case moves forward, any weight should be carried on the fact that Lorenzo was unlawfully carrying a gun?
Well, again, I think all facts and circumstances should be taken into consideration. Unfortunately, I don't have all the video footage and information that the police department is available because they haven't supplied it to me. But certainly I can see a scenario where some of those facts may weigh in one direction or the other. But it certainly appears right now from what we know that they were the aggressors here because he's outside of the store. They're the ones unlawfully carrying firearms, and they're doing it in the capacity of trying to enforce some sort of unlawfulness, right? So it doesn't appear on the surface of things that Mr. Lorenzo did anything wrong.
There was reports that Mr. Lorenzo was wearing a ski mask and had a backpack. You've been speaking to people who knew him. Was there any indication for the circumstances leading up to the shooting?
I've seen those reports. I haven't been able to confirm those facts, but what I do know is that there isn't any indication that Mr. Lorenzo was aggressive or fighting with anyone inside the store. It appears that he was running away, and that's when gunfire started. And so I haven't. Again, I think the information the police department has would add a lot of clarity to that, but unfortunately they haven't supplied that information. And I think that's also very odd because ordinarily they would supply that information in the circumstance of a citizen death like this.
I've heard that the family would be protesting in front of El Rey for a few days, and they've been calling out that El Rey is doing a cover-up. Would you think that's what El Rey is doing a cover-up?
I certainly believe that El Rey's and the private security firm are doing whatever they have to do to limit their liability. I absolutely believe that's the case. But I think it's important for folks to keep in mind that, folks that work in the corporate offices for El Rey's and the private security firm decided that they should have armed security here, even though those folks lack training and supervision for having armed security. I mean, that is awful and is also unlawful. And I think the City of Milwaukee Police Department must respond to why they're just letting that go, why they're looking the other way.
I think that was it. Thank you.
I have one more question.
Sure.
Would you know under state law what's the limit of the authority of the security guards under state law?
When you say the limit of their authority,
The authority means that should they pursue somebody, or should they just stop and call police, or do they have protocol according to state law? I know there's a new law that passed, I don't know, a few years back, but I don't know, limiting their...
What they have in a parking lot.
so,
Yeah.
well, let me say this. There's
Well, inside too,
best
anywhere.
practices for private security, right? And one of the things that we know that armed private security act differently than unarmed private security. And in general, unarmed private security would never pursue someone into a parking lot. And in fact, in general, armed private security would not follow somebody into a parking lot, right? But state law certainly does not permit them to act as police officers. There's no indication they were trying to arrest Mr. Lorenzo for committing some sort of crime, right? What they were trying to do is extrajudicial punishment for some reason that we don't know yet, right? I assume that the body camera footage and interviews done by the City of Milwaukee Police Department will illuminate that, but there's no indication here that any of these private security had any authority at all to stop, frisk, arrest, hold, detain, or otherwise stop the freedom of movement of Mr. Lorenzo. And I haven't heard any indication that Mr. Lorenzo pulled out a gun and was shooting at people. I haven't heard that at all. Instead, what I heard was that he left this location and people started shooting at him. And now we know that he's dead.
All right, thank you.
All right.